Your phone is at 1%. You reach for the charger, but it isn't there. Neither is the outlet. In fact, the wall isn't there either. And suddenly, something feels wrong. Not dangerous, just off. Like the world has been quietly stripped down around you without asking permission. Right now, you are surrounded by electricity, screens, notifications, signals, invisible voices fighting for your attention every second. And without realizing it, you were taught something very specific, that every moment must be filled. That silence is failure. That boredom is something to escape. But here's the uncomfortable question. What happens when all of it disappears? No cities, no clocks, no glowing rectangle in your hand. Just darkness, a fire nearby, and 12 straight hours of night ahead of you. No scrolling, no updates, no distraction, only your own mind. Because for most of human history, that was normal life. And what humans discovered inside that silence quietly shaped everything you are today. You've probably heard a simplified version of the past. That ancient life was constant struggle. Hunt, run, survive, repeat. A non-stop fight against death. But there's a problem with that story. It isn't entirely true. And the real version is stranger. Because imagine this instead. A group of humans sitting after a successful hunt. The tools are down. The danger has passed. The fire is low, but steady. No urgency. No task. No survival pressure in that moment. Just time and stillness. Anthropologists gave this lifestyle a strange name. The original affluent society. Not because they had wealth, but because they had something modern humans barely recognize anymore. Unused time. Only a few hours a day were needed to find food. So the question becomes unavoidable. What happens to a mind when it no longer needs to do anything? Something strange begins, because a brain with nothing to solve does not stay empty. It turns inward. It starts searching, building, wandering. And what we call boredom today, they experience very differently, not as a problem, but as the condition that made invention possible. Around 75,000 years ago, in a cave called Blombos on the southern coast of Africa, something almost invisible happened. A human picked up a piece of ochre, not for survival, not for food, not for protection, and then they carved into it. Slow lines, cross-hatched patterns, deliberate repetition. No immediate purpose, just design. If you saw it today, it would feel strangely familiar, almost like a doodle made while thinking about something else. But this wasn't decoration. This was something new emerging, a mind practicing imagination itself. And once that door opened, it never fully closed. Across the world, another scene, deep inside caves in what is now Indonesia. Torchlight flickering against stone walls, and on those walls, animals, but not random marks, carefully formed shapes, intentional composition. And later, something even stranger, scenes, not just drawings of things, but interactions between things, stories frozen into rock. And here's the question that should bother you. Why spend hours doing this? No food gained, no safety improved, no survival advantage in that moment. So why? The answer may not be in what they were doing, but in what their brains were doing while they were doing it. Inside your mind is a system that only becomes active when survival stops demanding your attention. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It activates when you drift, when you stare, when your thoughts stop following instructions, when you are, in modern terms, bored. And here's the strange part. This is where the brain starts connecting things that normally stay separate. Memory, emotion, pattern, imagination, ideas collide, and suddenly, something new appears. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived inside this rhythm naturally. Long walks, long waits, long nights. Time that was not structured but open. And inside that openness, something accumulated, not productivity, something deeper. Culture. They discovered rhythm. They discovered that sound could align bodies around a fire. They discovered that stories could carry warnings across generations. They discovered that a small carved object could hold memory itself. Not just survival knowledge, but meaning, identity, continuity. But here is where the story shifts, because that same state, the one that created all of this, is disappearing. Today, every idle moment has been captured. The elevator ride, the waiting line, the moment before sleep, all filled, all occupied, all replaced with movement, with feeds that never end, with stimulation that never pauses, and something strange happens because of it. You are more entertained than any human in history, but less still than almost any human before you, because constant input doesn't create depth, it prevents it. Boredom was never the enemy. It was the trigger, a signal that your mind was ready to shift gears. But now, that signal is interrupted before it can complete its function. So the mind never fully enters that deeper state. It just keeps resetting, and yet your brain still remembers. That's the strange part, because the same system that built civilizations is still inside you, waiting. Not broken, not missing, just unused. Think about the last time you were truly bored, not lightly distracted, not mildly waiting, but completely unstimulated. No screen, no escape, no input. At first, it feels uncomfortable, restless, almost wrong. But if you stay there long enough, something subtle begins to happen. Thoughts that were never scheduled appear. Connections form on their own. Ideas drift in without permission. And suddenly, your mind starts doing what it was originally built to do. Because your ancestors weren't afraid of that state, they lived inside it. And inside that same silence, they built tools. They built language. They built stories. They built everything that eventually became you. Your phone is still at 1%. Maybe that part never really mattered, because the real question was never about the phone. It was about what happens when the noise disappears. Because once you remove the distraction, you don't find emptiness. You find the same thing they found. A mind that was never meant to be constantly occupied. A silence that is not empty, but full of unfinished thoughts. And a spark that has been waiting the entire time you were too busy to notice it.